Welcome to our podcast. Learn English while sleeping.
It's not too late to begin again. We talk so much about fresh starts, but we forget that they don't need perfect timing. They don't need a Monday, a new year, or a milestone. A beginning can happen in the middle of an ordinary moment, after a bad decision, after years of numbness, after just one quiet realization. I want something different. You don't have to keep living a story that doesn't feel like yours anymore. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't need permission, or approval, or applause. You just need a little courage, and the willingness to choose something better for yourself, even if you don't know what it looks like yet. So tonight, let it be the beginning of something softer, something truer, something that feels like coming home to a version of you that's been waiting. Patiently, silently, hopefully. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too late. You're just beginning. And beginning is powerful. Peace is not found in the absence of noise. It's found in the space you make within it. The world doesn't slow down for you. It doesn't go quiet just because you're overwhelmed. The notifications keep coming. The calendar stays full. The voices around you don't pause. And in the middle of that chaos, you might think peace is something you'll find when you finally escape, when things settle, when life gives you a break. But real peace isn't about everything outside you go in still. It's about what you build inside. Peace is a decision, a moment of breath before you react, a gentle voice in your mind that says, "You're okay right now." Even if nothing looks okay, it's the way you choose not to spiral. Even though you could, it's the way you speak to yourself when no one else hears it. So tonight, don't wait for silence. Create it within yourself. In the space between one thought and the next, in the pause between inhale and exhale, in the knowing that peace doesn't have to be earned. It can be chosen, even here, even now, even in the middle of it all. You don't have to be everything to be enough. There is so much pressure to be more, to do more, to achieve faster, to impress louder. We wear exhaustion like it's accomplishment. We say yes when we want to say no. We stretch ourselves thin, trying to meet every need, trying to be every role, trying to carry the entire sky. But who told you that your worth depends on how much you give, how much you do, how much you never let fall apart? What if enough isn't found in more? What if enough is found in the quiet way you care, in the gentle presence you bring, in the way you listen, even when your heart is tired? You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You are not your productivity. You are not your performance. You are not the sum of what others think you are. So tonight, let enough be enough. Let rest be sacred. Let imperfection be okay. Let yourself just be. You are already enough, not because you've earned it, but because you exist. You are allowed to be both a masterpiece and a work in progress. So many nights we lie in bed, not knowing where we stand in our own story, feeling like we're not enough yet. Not complete, not fixed, not successful, not healed. But what if you could be both? Both someone beautiful and someone still learning? Both someone who shines and someone still searching for light? You are not a contradiction. You are a combination of soft and strong, of known and unknown, of chaos and clarity. It's okay to not have reached the end of your journey. You are not a failure for still becoming. You are a living piece of art. And every brushstroke, even the messy ones, even the ones you regret, is part of the whole painting. You don't need to rush to the after. There is beauty in the becoming. There is worth in the process. Even if it's slow, even if you take a few steps back, even if healing looks like crying yourself to sleep some nights, you don't have to pick. You can be in love with who you are and still want to be better. You can be proud of how far you've come and still wish you were further. Tonight, let yourself hold both truths. Let your breath hold the past and the future, but rest in the present. Right now, you are worthy. Right now, you are art in motion, and that's enough. Rest is not idleness. It is repair. We live in a world that rewards exhaustion, That glorifies the grind. That tells you rest is for the weak. But that's not true. Rest is not giving up. Rest is not laziness. Rest is choosing yourself. It's giving your body a chance to breathe, your mind a chance to stop running, your soul a chance to speak. You are not broken for needing rest. You're just human. And even machines need to power down. Think of how much you've held today, how much your heart carried. Maybe in silence, maybe with no one watching, but still, you carried it. And now, you are allowed to put it down. Your value is not tied to how much you accomplish. It's not found in crossed-off checklists. It's found in your breath, in your heartbeat, in the quiet, when you say, "This is enough for today." Rest is repair. Rest is remembering who you are underneath the noise. It's choosing softness in a world that constantly demands hardness. It's choosing peace, even if everything around you still spins. So tonight, don't apologize for needing rest. Don't feel guilty for lying down. You are not quitting. You are healing, and healing is always enough. You don't have to believe everything your tired mind tells you at night. Night can be cruel sometimes, not because the world turns darker, but because the mind gets louder. When the lights go out and the noise outside fades, you're left with the voices inside, the what-ifs, the I should have, the I'm not enough. But here's the thing. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every late-night worry is truth. Not every fear that whispers in the dark knows who you truly are. Your tired mind is not the best narrator of your life. It speaks through the lens of exhaustion. It twists facts into fears, memories into shame, possibilities into dread. But that's not reality. That's just the weight of a brain that's carried too much for too long. You are more than your 2 a.m. doubts. You are not the sum of your anxieties. You are not defined by that one awkward thing you said 3 years ago. You are not your worst moment, not your worst decision, not the version of yourself that fear keeps painting. Tonight, choose not to engage with every thought. Let them pass. Like clouds in a night sky. You don't have to catch them. You don't have to fix them. You can simply let them float on by. Remind yourself gently, I am not my thoughts. I am the one who watches them. Let your breath be the proof. That peace is still possible. Even when the mind is busy, let your pillow carry the heaviness. Let sleep be your soft refusal. To let fear decide who you are safe. You are loved. You are more than any story your tired mind tries to tell tonight. Even your smallest step forward still counts. There will be days when progress looks like triumph. When you feel brave and beautiful and capable. When you speak with clarity, walk with confidence, and everything makes sense. And there will be days when getting out of bed feels like a mountain. When brushing your hair is an act of courage. When saying I'm okay takes everything in you. But those days, those small, quiet, invisible victories, are just as important. Healing isn't linear. It's not a straight path. It's not about constant growth or daily wins. Sometimes it's about choosing not to give up, even when you don't know what comes next. Sometimes it's about whispering, I'll try again tomorrow. Even through tears, the step may be small, but it still counts. Because you took it. Because you showed up for yourself. Even in the smallest way, don't minimize your efforts. Don't belittle your pace. The world may not see what you've done today, but you know, and that matters. So tonight, acknowledge your own strength. Not just in what you've accomplished, but in what you've endured. Every gentle attempt to move forward, every breath taken in pain, every moment you stayed when you wanted to run, that's strength. And it all counts. It's okay if all you did today was breathe. There's this quiet pressure that whispers to us from to-do lists and expectations and social feeds full of accomplishments. It tells us that we need to be constantly building, creating, achieving, to be worthy of peace. But some days, the most sacred thing you can do is simply keep breathing. There will be days when your body feels heavy, when your thoughts feel loud, when motivation disappears and clarity hides. And those days are still valid, still real, still part of your life. You don't need to pretend you're okay when you're not. You don't need to power through pain just to prove something. You don't need to wear a smile if your soul is aching. If all you did today was survive, if all you did was breathe, if all you managed was to be here, still holding on, then you've already done enough. Your existence is not a performance. You don't need to impress anyone to matter. So tonight, let go of the need to measure your day in productivity. Let yourself be proud, simply for being here, for breathing through the hard parts, for staying soft in a hard world. That's not nothing. That's everything. You don't have to be fixed to be loved. Sometimes we get caught in the illusion that we have to be whole, perfect, untouched by the world's harshness, to be worthy of love. But that's not true. You don't have to have it all together. You don't have to have a flawless past. You don't have to have all the answers. To be loved, you are not a project to be perfected. You are not an object to be fixed. You are a human being, a beautiful, messy, complex soul. And love doesn't need perfection to exist, even in your brokenness, even in your uncertainty, even in the parts of yourself you'd rather hide. You are deserving of love. You don't need to heal completely first. You don't need to wait until you feel good enough. You don't need to have everything figured out to let yourself be loved and cared for. The love that you deserve doesn't come with conditions. It doesn't wait for you to change. It simply exists, right where you are, flaws and all. So tonight, embrace that part of you that feels unworthy, that feels imperfect, and remind it, you don't need to be fixed. You are already enough as you are, and you are worthy of love just as you are. Progress is progress, no matter how slow. We live in a world that's always rushing, always moving fast, always pushing for more speed, more efficiency, more results. And it's easy to get caught up in the idea that if you're not moving at a certain pace, if you're not sprinting ahead, then you're falling behind. But that's not the truth. Progress isn't a race. It's a journey. Sometimes progress looks like waking up and getting out of bed when all you want to do is hide. Sometimes it looks like saying one kind word to yourself. When you've been so hard on yourself for so long, sometimes it looks like taking one small step forward. When you feel like you're barely moving, and that's okay. That's still progress. Even if it doesn't look fast, even if it feels like baby steps, every small action, every small choice, every small victory is still moving you forward. It's still growth. So tonight, give yourself permission to honor where you are and how far you've come. Even if it feels like the smallest of steps, they matter. They count. And they are progress. You're not falling behind. You're right on time. Every step you take is part of your journey, and it all adds up. You are allowed to outgrow people, places, and patterns. Growth is rarely loud. It's quiet, subtle, a shift in your chest, a gentle awareness that something no longer feels like home. There are places you've stayed in for too long, not because they nurtured you, but because they were familiar, because leaving felt like betrayal, because change felt like failure. But you're not meant to stay small, to shrink for someone else's comfort, to dim yourself just to fit in. You are allowed to grow, to evolve, to move on. You are allowed to outgrow conversations that no longer inspire you, people who only see a version of you you've outlived, dreams that no longer align with your spirit, and ways of thinking that once protected you but now hold you back. Growth is not abandonment. It's not arrogance. It's not disloyalty. Growth is honoring your truth. It's listening when your heart whispers, I need more. It's letting go without resentment and moving forward without guilt. So tonight, release the need to explain yourself, to make everyone understand. Some things are meant to be loved from a distance, and that's okay. You are not obligated to stay the same. You are allowed to bloom, even if it means growing in a new direction. Even if it means growing alone, you are not behind. You are on your own timeline. Comparison is a thief of joy, of presence, of self-compassion. You scroll and you see them. Friends, strangers, people living lives that seem louder, brighter, faster, graduating, getting promoted, falling in love, starting families, building empires. And it's so easy to wonder, what's wrong with me? Why am I not there yet? But you're not late. You're not behind. You're simply on a different path, a different timeline, one that cannot be rushed or compared. Your life is not meant to match someone else's pace. It's meant to unfold in its own time, with its own rhythm, with its own beauty. There's no universal deadline, no rule book that says you must have it all figured out by 25, or 30, or even 40. You are not a failure because your story looks different. You are a human, learning, navigating, becoming, and that takes time. So tonight, let yourself breathe a little easier. You're not racing anyone. You're not missing out. You're exactly where you're meant to be, even if it doesn't feel like it yet. Let go of the clock. Let go of the pressure. You're not behind. You're becoming, and becoming takes time. Healing doesn't mean the damage never existed. It means it no longer controls you. There are scars you carry, invisible to everyone else, but etched into the fabric of your thoughts. The way you flinch at certain words, the way silence sometimes feels too loud, the way you brace yourself even when there's no danger around. Healing isn't pretending it didn't happen. It's not wiping the slate clean as if the pain was never real. Healing is remembering, without reliving. It's learning how to breathe through the ache, without letting it choke you. It's looking back and not getting pulled under. It's no longer letting what broke you steer your direction. Some days healing feels like progress. Other days it feels like survival. But every breath you've taken, every tear you've released, every morning you got up, when everything in you wanted to stay in bed, that is healing. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be fast. It just needs to be yours. So tonight, honor the path you've walked, the cracks you've carried, the light you've let in anyway. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means forgiving yourself for holding on so long, and finally giving yourself permission to let go. Not every storm is meant to be avoided. Some are meant to be walked through. You've spent so much time trying to protect yourself from pain, from loss, from the chaos that life throws at you uninvited. But some things can't be outrun. Some lessons can't be skipped. Some healing only happens when you go through the fire, not around it. You were never meant to avoid all storms. You were meant to survive them, to learn what you're made of in the middle of them, to rise, not because the sky's cleared, but because you found your anchor inside the waves. So tonight, if you feel like you're standing in the wind, trying to hold everything together, let go of the fight. Let yourself feel what's true. You are strong enough, not to dodge every storm, but to stand inside it and still breathe. You are not failing because it's hard. You're not broken because it hurts. You are just becoming wiser, deeper, truer. And when the storm passes, because it will, you'll look back and realize it didn't destroy you. It revealed you. The way you speak to yourself matters more than you think. You've mastered being kind to others, lifting them up, soothing their fears, holding their heaviness with both hands. But how do you speak to yourself when no one's listening, when the lights are off, and the only voice left in the room is yours? Do you talk to yourself like someone worth loving, or like someone constantly falling short? You deserve to be met with gentleness, even in your inner world. You deserve a voice that doesn't just remind you of your flaws, but one that celebrates how far you've come, how much you've survived, how deeply you care. You deserve a voice that knows you are a work in progress, and that is beautiful. So tonight, speak softly to yourself, not just because you're tired, but because you've tried, because you've held so much, and kept going anyway. Let your self-talk be a shelter, not a storm. You've always deserved that kind of kindness, even from you. Your worth isn't found in someone else's ability to see it. There are moments when you give your heart, and it's not seen, moments when your efforts are dismissed, when your kindness is taken for granted, when you pour and pour, and no one seems to notice you're running empty. And in those moments, it's easy to wonder, am I not enough? Is something wrong with me? But someone's inability to love you doesn't make you less lovable. Their silence doesn't mean your voice has no value. Sometimes people can't see you clearly because they're too focused on their own pain, or because they've never learned how to receive love without trying to fix or control it. You are still worthy, even if they missed it. You are still enough, even if they walked away. So tonight, let go of the need to be validated by the wrong mirrors. Let go of the craving for approval. That costs your peace. Look inward, where the quiet truth always lives. You've always been more than enough. Long before anyone tried to measure you, you are not behind. You're exactly where you need to be. Comparison is a thief with quiet footsteps. It slips into your mind when you're tired, scrolling, watching, measuring your timeline against someone else's highlights, and suddenly it feels like you're late, like you've missed something, like your story is too slow, too small, too uncertain. But life isn't a race. There is no universal clock that says where you should be, by what age, with what status, and how polished. You are allowed to move at your own pace, allowed to pause, to detour, to start again. Some flowers bloom in spring, others wait for the stillness of autumn, and neither is wrong. So tonight, stop counting how far you still have to go. Start honoring how far you've already come. You are not behind. You are becoming, and becoming takes time. There's nothing wrong with your timing, nothing wrong with your path. You are exactly where you need to be. Even if it doesn't look like anyone else's map, you can forgive yourself and still hold yourself accountable. We often believe that forgiveness means forgetting, that to forgive ourselves, we must excuse everything, erase the pain we've caused, pretend we were never wrong. But that's not how healing works. You can look your past in the eye and still choose to grow. You can admit your mistakes and still be kind to yourself. You can carry the weight of your actions without letting them define your future. Accountability doesn't mean self-punishment, and forgiveness doesn't mean pretending it never happened. It means choosing not to be cruel to the version of you who didn't know better. It means saying, I see what I did and I'll do better now. It means letting your growth speak louder than your shame ever did. So tonight, let go of the story that says you're a bad person because you made a bad decision. You are still allowed to heal, still allowed to love yourself, still allowed to rewrite the narrative. Without erasing what made you rewrite it in the first place, healing doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like surviving the same day over and over. There are days when healing feels like a sunrise. Everything is glowing. Hope is soft and close, and it feels like you've finally turned a corner. But then there are the other days, the ones that feel like repetition, like you're stuck, like nothing has changed, like you're right back where you started. But you're not, because every time you choose not to give up, every time you get out of bed, or even just breathe a little deeper, or cry when you need to, or feel without running, you are healing. Not every part of healing is visible. Sometimes it's slow, quiet, invisible even to you. But surviving, again and again, is not a failure. It's proof you're still here, still choosing yourself, even in the dark. So tonight, let this be enough. Let breathing be enough. Let showing up be enough. Healing isn't always forward, but it's always real, even when it doesn't look like much. And now, as the night settles deeper and your breath begins to slow, let this be your final thought. Before you drift away, you did not have to be perfect today. You didn't need to fix everything, or be everything, or have all the answers. You only had to show up in whatever way you could, and you did. So tonight, let the weight slip from your shoulders. Let the noise in your mind fade into quiet. Let every version of you, the tired one, the unsure one, the brave one, lay down together without judgment. You don't need to solve your life before you sleep. You only need to rest and trust that everything inside you already knows how to begin again tomorrow. You are safe now. You are held now. You are allowed to rest now. Good night. Beautiful soul, you are enough, even in silence, even in sleep, even in dreams. You ever open your phone just to check the time and then somehow end up scrolling for 40 minutes?
Every single day, it's like I blink. And suddenly I'm in this rabbit hole, watching a guy restore old knives, or someone reorganizing their pantry at 2 a.m. And the weird thing is, I don't even care about the knives or the pantry, but I can't stop watching.
It's not even entertaining anymore. It's just addictive. That's dopamine. Not the happy chemical people always say it is. Not really. It's the promise of reward, not the reward itself. It whispers, something better is coming. Just one more scroll, just one more click. And the brain listens. Because it's wired for it. That's why starting is easy, but staying focused feels impossible. You sit down to study, and your brain goes, "This is boring, but what if someone liked your post? Check real quick." It'll just take a second, except it never takes a second. It takes your entire focus, your presence, your peace, and then you feel guilty, so you try harder. But the harder you try, the more exhausting it becomes, because you're fighting a battle with your own biology.
I used to think I was lazy, or broken, or just not disciplined enough. But it wasn't about willpower. It was about being constantly overstimulated.
Our brains are drowning in micro hits of dopamine from everything, everywhere, all the time. Even silence feels uncomfortable now because it doesn't give us anything to chase. We've lost the ability to just be, to sit still, to do one thing without itching for the next. The truth is, dopamine isn't evil. It's the reason we strive, create, build, but it wasn't designed for endless notifications and infinite scrolling. It was designed for survival, for effort, for delayed rewards. So when we feed it with instant pleasure, over and over, we rewire the system. Focus becomes harder because boredom feels unbearable. Deep work feels like pain because the brain is conditioned for easy hits. And the worst part, we don't even realize it's happening. We think we're weak, but really, we're chemically hijacked.
So what do?
We don't need to quit everything. We need to reset. Start small. Read one page and stop. Sit with boredom for 5 minutes. Walk without music sometimes. Let the brain detox from the flood. It'll scream at first, tell you it's hungry for stimulation. But if you wait, really wait, you'll feel it shift. The fog starts to lift. Your thoughts stop racing. Your focus comes back, not because you forced it, but because you gave it space to breathe. Dopamine isn't the enemy. It's the compass, but you have to decide where it points. Otherwise, it'll keep pulling you somewhere you didn't mean to go. Again, and again, and again. And one day you'll look up, realize you've spent years chasing sparks and missing the fire. So maybe today, you sit still long enough to feel something real, not exciting, not flashy, just real, and maybe, for the first time in a long time, you'll actually notice you're here. You know what's crazy? The more I learn about how dopamine works, the more I realize how much of my life I've been living on autopilot. I'll wake up, and before I even fully open my eyes, my hand reaches for the phone. It's not even a conscious decision anymore, and I don't check for anything important. I'm not checking if someone's okay, or if something urgent came up. I just scroll, like my brain is craving something, before I've even said good morning to myself. I used to tell myself it's fine, it's just a habit. But then the habit started to bleed into everything. Can't eat without watching something. Can't walk without music. Can't sit alone without pulling out a screen. And the scariest part is that I didn't even notice when it got that bad. I didn't realize how addicted I was to avoiding even 5 minutes of stillness. It's like silence became this terrifying space I didn't know how to fill unless something else filled it for me. And I hate how normal it felt. How easy it was to let go of depth, to trade it for constant stimulation.
I feel that so much more than I'd like to admit. And the part that really messes me up is how we confuse constant input with actual productivity. Like, if I'm scrolling through motivational videos or learning hacks on Instagram, my brain convinces me I'm doing something useful, but I'm not actually applying anything. I'm not building anything. I'm just absorbing, passively, without direction, without pause. And then I wonder why I feel so empty by the end of the day. It's like I've consumed so much, but digested nothing. You know what I miss? I miss being bored and letting my brain wander. Not to a feed, but to thoughts that felt like mine. Back then I used to write more, create more, even just sit with myself and actually hear my own thoughts. Now it's like there's this static noise layered over everything. And even when it's quiet outside, it's never quiet in here. And I think it's because I never gave myself the time to be with the silence long enough to hear what's underneath it.
Exactly. I didn't realize how much noise I'd normalized until I spent one afternoon without my phone. No music, no podcasts, just walking around, sitting at a cafe, watching people. At first it was uncomfortable. Like my brain was searching for something to latch onto. I felt twitchy, restless, even anxious. But slowly, this strange calm started creeping in. It wasn't flashy or exciting, but it felt like breathing again. Real breathing. And that's when I got it. Focus doesn't come from pushing harder. It comes from giving your brain space to settle. We think we need more motivation, more systems. But maybe what we actually need is less noise, less pressure, less chasing. I'm tired of chasing. I just want to be here, fully, without needing something else to keep me going every second. And isn't that the most ironic thing? That we keep feeding our brains with more, hoping we'll feel better, more fulfilled, more focused, when the answer has always been subtraction. I used to think I needed to optimize everything, every second. But the real optimization is learning to sit in stillness and not panic, to find joy in simplicity again, in long walks, in deep breaths, in doing one thing at a time without splitting myself in 5 directions. That's what dopamine stole from me, the ability to be where I am and not feel like I should be somewhere else, doing something else, becoming someone else. But I'm starting to take that back, slowly, not perfectly, but consciously. And I think that's where real focus begins. Not with another trick, but with reclaiming your attention like it actually belongs to you. Sometimes I wonder how many hours of my life I've given away, without even realizing it. Not to people, not to meaningful moments, but to nothing. Just mindless loops. And when I think back to certain weeks, even months, I can't recall a single thing that made me feel alive, because I was just existing inside that loop. Wake up. Scroll, work a little, check phone, scroll again, pretend to work, scroll some more, sleep, repeat. And at some point I stopped questioning it, because it felt like everyone else was doing the same thing. We're all wired in, all plugged into the same rhythm of distraction, and no one's calling it out, because no one wants to be alone with the silence long enough to break it. But I do now, because I'm tired of forgetting how it feels to be present. To really feel the seconds go by and know that they were mine. I want my time back. I want my mind back, even if I have to wrestle it from the grip of 1,000 dopamine hits a day.
God, I needed to hear that. Because honestly, I've been afraid of who I am when everything's quiet. Like, what if without the constant noise, I realize I'm empty? That's the thought that keeps me scrolling, because distraction is safer than self-reflection. But lately I've been noticing this ache, like a low hum beneath the surface. Something inside me, trying to come up for air, and every time I ignore it, every time I numb it with another video or notification, it fades a little more. And I don't want that anymore. I don't want to lose that part of me that remembers wonder, real joy, not just amusement. I want depth again, not because it looks good or makes me feel productive, but because it's where my soul lives, and I miss it so badly. And if taking back my focus is what it takes to get back to that version of me, then I'm willing to sit in the discomfort and relearn how to exist without needing to escape every 2 minutes. That's exactly it. It's not about productivity hacks or time blocking. It's about being willing to feel even the uncomfortable stuff and still choosing not to run from it. I used to think being focused meant being intense, strict, disciplined to the point of burnout. But now I think maybe being focused is just being honest with yourself about what matters, about how much of your life you've been giving away, and how much you want to keep from here on out. Because we only get so many quiet mornings, so many real conversations, so many days where the sun hits just right on your face. And if we spend them all in a dopamine loop, we'll miss the very things that make life beautiful. Not exciting, not flashy, just beautiful in the slow, quiet way. And I don't want to miss that anymore. I want to see my life again, not just scroll through someone else's.
And that's where we'll stop for today. I hope you've had a moment to think, to reflect, and maybe, just maybe, you're seeing things a little clearer now. We're all in this together, figuring it out step by step. So, if this episode spoke to you, if you felt like someone finally said what you've been thinking, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you never miss a new episode. We're just getting started, and I can't wait to keep exploring these thoughts with you. So, take care, keep your focus, and as always, I'll be right here when you're ready to listen again. See you soon.
I used to think waking up at 5 a.m. was only for people chasing something. Goals, success, a head start on the world. Like they were somehow better than the rest of us. More disciplined, more determined. And for a long time, I kind of hated them for it. Because I couldn't do it. I tried. Set the alarm. Put the phone across the room. Promised myself I'd start a new life tomorrow. But then 5 a.m. came and it felt cruel. Too quiet. Too honest. Like it was asking me questions I wasn't ready to answer. But then something changed. I stopped trying to wake up early for productivity, and I started waking up for presence, for silence, for that soft space where the world hasn't started demanding anything from me yet. No emails, no expectations, no noise. Just me, barefaced, half awake, and completely real. That's when I realized 5 a.m. doesn't have to be about hustle. It can be about healing. It can be about sitting in the dark and feeling your own breath. It can be about remembering who you are before the world tells you who to be. And once I tasted that kind of peace, I didn't want to sleep through it anymore.
You know what's strange? Before I ever tried waking up at 5, I always thought early mornings belonged to people who had it all together. Like they had routines with lemon water and 10-step journaling rituals and playlists called peaceful productivity. And I was just the messy one, who couldn't get out of bed without scrolling through my phone for 40 minutes. But the first morning I actually got up, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. It was quiet in a way I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't about checking anything off. It wasn't about reading 10 pages of a self-help book or running 5 kilometers. It was just about remembering what it felt like to be with myself, before the world could tell me who to be that day. I sat there, with this mug that still smelled like dish soap, and a hoodie that was too warm, and I just breathed. Not deep breaths for calming my nervous system or anything fancy. Just regular breaths, the kind that don't need fixing. And in that small stillness, I felt like I could hear my life again. The parts that had been whispering, while I was too busy scrolling, too busy achieving, too busy pretending to be okay. And the thing is, I didn't feel powerful. I didn't feel productive. I felt human. And weirdly, that was more than enough.
That hit so deeply, because I used to associate stillness with laziness. I thought if I wasn't moving, I was falling behind. So the idea of waking up and not immediately doing something felt foreign to me, almost uncomfortable. But then I had this moment. It was maybe the third day I tried getting up at 5. And I remember just watching my cat, curled up in the softest part of the couch, completely unbothered by time. And I thought, what if I gave myself that same softness? What if I stopped measuring the worth of a morning by how much I could get done, and started measuring it by how gently I could arrive in it? So I stopped trying to win the morning. I stopped trying to fit it into a narrative that made sense to other people. And I started listening to the parts of me that only spoke up when everything else was quiet. The tired part. The sad part. The part that needed to grieve things I never gave myself time to grieve. And suddenly those early hours became less about being ahead and more about being whole. I wasn't trying to get a head start on anyone anymore. I was trying to stop leaving parts of myself behind.
You know what's beautiful about that? The way stillness in the morning invites you back into your own rhythm, because the rest of the day, it's like you're constantly adjusting to someone else's beat. Deadlines, meetings, notifications, small talk. But when you wake up at 5, before the notifications, before the caffeine, you remember what it's like to move without performance, to breathe without rushing, to just be. And I think that's why I keep coming back to it. Not because I need to be productive, but because I need to feel like myself again. And 5 in the morning, that's the only time I've found where I don't have to explain that to anyone. I can just exist, uninterrupted, unedited, and maybe that's the point. Not to get ahead of the day, but to stop letting the day get ahead of me.
You know what I've realized? Waking up early didn't change my life in a grand, dramatic way. There was no fireworks moment, no sudden clarity about who I'm meant to be. It was more like a quiet unlearning, like shedding this idea that I always need to be somewhere else, better, faster, more efficient. And instead, I learned to be here, with the cold floor under my feet, with the soft hum of the refrigerator, with the ache in my back from a restless sleep. Nothing polished, nothing curated, just life as it is. And strangely, those were the mornings I started hearing myself again. Not the loud, anxious voice that wants to impress people, but the soft one, the one that whispers, "You're okay. You're enough. You're still here." I used to be afraid of that quiet because it felt like nothing was happening. But now I know that's where everything real begins. Not in motion, but in meaning. Not in productivity, but in presence.
That makes me think of something I read once about how we confuse stillness with stagnation and speed with progress. Like if you're not moving, you're failing. But what if you're just becoming? What if growth isn't loud? What if it's slow, silent, and unseen for a long time, like roots under soil? No one sees them, but they're the reason anything stands. That's what 5 a.m. has been for me, a place beneath the noise, where I get to lay roots again, where I can ask myself the questions I've been too distracted to answer, where I can feel sad without needing to fix it, where I can feel joy without needing to post about it, where I can just sit in my own skin and not feel like I'm wasting time by doing so. And honestly, that's the most radical thing I've done in years. Not some morning challenge, not some perfect productivity system, but just being with myself, fully, before the world wakes up and starts pulling at me in all directions again.
Exactly. And what's funny is that now when people ask me why I wake up so early, I don't even know how to answer in one sentence. Because it's not about tips and tricks. It's not about a routine I can package and sell. It's not a lifestyle upgrade. It's a lifeline. It's me, learning to meet myself where I am, not where I wish I was. And some mornings, I don't do anything worthwhile. I sit. I stare at the wall. I listen to the sound of the city yawning awake. And that's enough. It's not glamorous, but it's grounding. And in a world that's constantly shouting at you to be more, to do more, to prove yourself, there's something so powerful about choosing stillness, not as an escape, but as a return to breath, to body, to self, to everything I've ignored, because I thought the world wouldn't wait for me. But it does. At 5 a.m., before anyone else is watching, the world waits, and I finally let myself arrive.
Some mornings I don't even make it out of bed right away. I just lie there, eyes open, watching the ceiling fade from dark to light, and that in-between space, before the sun fully rises, before my brain starts listing out everything I need to do. It feels like sacred ground, like no one can reach me there, not my insecurities, not my guilt, not the pressure to show up for anyone else. And in that space, I remember things, not facts or to-dos, but feelings, people I haven't thought about in years, moments I forgot I carried, like the way my mom used to hum in the kitchen, or the time I cried on the bus and no one looked at me, but I didn't feel alone somehow. I think waking up at 5 isn't about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you were, before the noise, before the performance, before the world trained you to be efficient instead of tender. And no, it doesn't always feel magical. Some mornings it's just me and my messy thoughts and a stale piece of bread. But even then, there's something grounding about it, like I'm choosing myself, before anyone else gets a chance to shape me that day.
That's what I've been chasing all along, without knowing it. Not success, not motivation, not even clarity. Just a place where I can be real and not have to justify it. I used to wake up already behind, even on days when nothing was urgent. I felt like I was late for something I couldn't name. And that feeling, it steals from you, it steals your breath, your joy, your softness. But when I started giving myself the gift of those early hours, not every day, not perfectly, but intentionally, I noticed I didn't hate myself as much. I wasn't so hard on the version of me that moved slowly, or forgot things, or didn't know what the hell she was doing. I started meeting myself with grace. And now, even when life gets loud again, when the day takes over, I still carry that quiet with me, like a soft thread in my pocket, reminding me, you are allowed to slow down. You are allowed to be undone and still worthy. You are allowed to begin again, as many times as it takes. And sometimes I wonder how many versions of myself I've abandoned just because I didn't give her time to speak. How many mornings I filled with noise, with scrolling, with rushing, just to avoid hearing my own quiet truth. But now, when the world is still, and it's just me in the air before sunrise, I feel her again, The girl I left behind in the busyness. The one who used to sit with her thoughts without running from them. The one who didn't yet know how to pretend. I think we forget that healing isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just sitting in your room when everyone else is asleep and forgiving yourself for all the times you didn't show up. For you. That's what 5 a.m. is for me now. It's not a hack, not a strategy, not a performance. It's a conversation with the parts of me that never needed to be fixed, just heard. And no one claps for those mornings. No one sees them. There's no applause, no recognition, just breath, just light, just one small choice to be gentle when you could have kept being harsh. And honestly, that's the kind of transformation I trust. The quiet kind, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself, because it already knows it's real. So I wake up, not because I have everything figured out, not because I want to be better than anyone, but because it's the only time I remember I already am enough, before I even do a single thing.
You know what I never expected? That waking up early would change the way I listen to people, not just hearing their words, but actually holding space for them, without immediately filling the silence. Before, I'd rush to respond, to advise, to fix, like silence made me nervous. But those early mornings taught me how to stay, in the quiet, with myself first, and then with others. Now, when someone tells me they're tired, I don't ask why. When someone says they feel lost, I don't hand them a map. I just let them be. The way I'm finally learning to let myself be. It's strange how much noise we carry, just because we've never been taught how to hold quiet. And now I see it everywhere. In conversations, in relationships, in the way people talk over their own feelings, like they're afraid of what might come out if they pause for too long. But pausing isn't the problem. It's the beginning. It's the space where something true might finally have the courage to show up. And maybe that's the real gift of 5 a.m. It rewires how I move through the world, how I show up in rooms. Not trying to be the loudest, but trying to be the safest. Because if I can hold space for myself, at my most tired, my most unfiltered, then maybe I can do that for someone else too. Not to save them, but just to sit with them while they find their own way through.
There's also something about watching the world wake up without you, like standing at the edge of a river that hasn't noticed you yet. For once, you're not chasing the current. You're just observing it, realizing how much of your life has been lived on autopilot. And fast forward, in next. But in those early hours, when the streets are empty and the notifications haven't started, I remember I have a choice. To not live in reaction, to not let every ping, every headline, every expectation decide who I get to be today. It's not even about being calm. It's about being conscious, fully awake, before the world tells me what to want, what to fear, what to prove. And I used to think that kind of clarity came from big things. A breakthrough, a trip, a career change. But no, it comes from the small, stubborn act of sitting with yourself before anyone else can interrupt. And some mornings I feel nothing. I sit in the dark, and I'm just there. No big emotion, no beautiful thought, just breath. But I think that's part of it too. Making peace with the in-between. Not everything has to mean something right away. Some mornings are just a quiet yes to still being here. Sometimes I think about when I was a kid, how mornings felt so much slower back then, like time hadn't learned to sprint yet. I remember the sound of the kettle, the click of the fan, the soft thud of my dad's footsteps down the hallway. There was this stillness, not because life was perfect, but because it wasn't urgent. And somehow, waking up at 5 now brings that feeling back. Not exactly the memories, but the rhythm of them. Like my body still remembers what it was like before alarms and deadlines and performance reviews. I think we don't just crave quiet. We crave return. Return to moments that didn't demand us to be more, to know more, to prove anything. I never realized how much of adult life is about convincing others, convincing ourselves. But at 5, there's no one to convince. No eyes watching, no metrics counting, no one waiting to be impressed. And that kind of invisibility, it's not loneliness, it's freedom. The freedom to exist without armor, without the polished version, without the clever reply.
I think what scares me the most is how easy it is to forget who I am. When the world gets loud, all it takes is a bad day, a careless comment, a scroll through someone else's perfect morning routine. And suddenly I'm shrinking, editing myself, performing again. But at 5, when it's just me and the silence. I start to remember, not in a grand cinematic way, but in this quiet, almost clumsy unfolding, like finding old letters you wrote to yourself and realizing you still mean them. And I used to think I needed answers, that if I could just figure everything out, I'd finally be okay. But now, I'm starting to believe it's not about answers. It's about returning to the questions, the ones that keep you human. Who am I when no one's watching? What do I need, really? What parts of me have I been silencing? Just to stay acceptable? I don't wake up early to win anything anymore. I wake up because I'm tired of abandoning myself in a world that keeps rewarding people for being someone else. And there's something radical about choosing to meet yourself in the dark before the world tells you who to be. Something sacred about honoring your own rhythm, even if no one understands it. Even if you don't fully understand it yet. Some mornings I just sit there and say nothing at all. But that silence feels like the first honest conversation I've had in days.
Yeah, that really hits something in me. Because honestly, I don't wake up early because I have it all together. I wake up early because sometimes it's the only time I feel like I can fall apart without having to explain myself to anyone. During the day, I have to keep it moving, keep it polite, keep it strong. But at 5, no one's watching. No one's expecting me to smile or respond or inspire. It's not always beautiful. Some mornings it's messy. Some mornings it's numb. Some mornings it's just me sitting there, staring out the window, trying to gather myself enough to simply function. And weirdly, that honesty, that rawness, it gives me something real to stand on. Not confidence, but clarity. Not certainty, but space. Space to feel like I don't need to fix everything before the sun rises. That I'm allowed to just be broken for a moment and still be enough. People always think waking up early is about discipline, about ambition. But I think for people like us, it's also about survival. It's the hour before the world starts shouting, when your thoughts are still soft enough to hear, and your heart hasn't put its armor on yet. And in that softness, I meet parts of me I don't show anyone. Not because I'm hiding, but because some parts of us only speak when the world is still asleep. Lately, I've been thinking about how much of my life feels like momentum. Like I made one decision, then another, then a dozen more, and suddenly I'm in a life I didn't exactly choose, but never paused long enough to question. And during the day, it's like I'm on rails. Task after task, response after response. It's automatic. Efficient maybe, but not alive. But at 5, before the phone buzzes, before the inbox fills, I feel like I have permission to ask myself if this is still the direction I want to go. Not in some dramatic way, not like quitting everything and moving to a cabin, just quiet questioning. Like, am I still mine? Or have I slowly shaped myself to fit into places I was never meant to stay in? And the strange thing is, I don't always have an answer. But the act of asking feels like resistance. A small, quiet rebellion against autopilot. A moment to course correct, even if just an inch. Because sometimes, 1 inch every morning is what keeps you from drifting entirely. No one sees that shift. No one claps for it. But I do. Because I know how easy it is to forget, how dangerous it is to never pause. And I guess that's why I wake up early. Not to finish more, but to feel again what it's like to choose.
You know, what you said about feeling like you're on rails. I get that. It's like we're running a race, but we don't even remember when we started, or why we're running at all. We just run, and it's exhausting, but somehow comforting in its predictability. I remember the first time I actually stopped and realized I wasn't living my own life. It was like being in a room full of people, but still feeling completely alone. I was checking off boxes, doing what I was supposed to do, what everyone else expected me to do. But I couldn't remember the last time I asked myself, is this what I want? And the weird thing is, when you start questioning, it's almost like everything around you pushes back. The world doesn't really like people who stop and think, does it? It's like it tells you, get up, keep moving, keep going, but it doesn't tell you where you're going. And when you stop, there's this deep, strange silence that you don't know how to fill. I guess for a long time I was afraid of that silence, afraid of what it might say about me, what it might reveal that I wasn't ready to face. I mean, when you stop, you have to look at yourself, and not the version you show the world, but the one that's been hiding in the corners, the one that's been trying to get your attention for years, but you've been too busy to hear. So yeah, Waking up at 5? It sounds simple, but it's a lot harder than it seems. It's almost like giving yourself permission to feel uncomfortable, and then sit in it long enough to understand where it comes from. But I think that's what makes it worth it, right? It's not the perfect answers, or the peace we expect to find. It's the fact that we can finally give ourselves permission to be messy, to be uncertain, and still know we're okay.
You know, the more I think about it, the more I realize how much pressure we put on ourselves to get everything right. We wake up every day feeling like we have to achieve something, like our value is based on how much we can get done. And I used to be the same way. I thought if I woke up early, if I planned everything down to the last detail, then I'd be successful, then I'd be happy. But over time, I've learned that's not true. Waking up early, yeah, it's a quiet time, a time where it feels like the world hasn't yet put any demands on me. But what really matters isn't what I do in that time. What matters is what I allow myself to feel in those moments. I've realized that being productive, checking off tasks, that doesn't really define who I am. It's just a small part of it. The bigger part is learning to be kind to myself, even when I don't have everything figured out. Sometimes we get so caught up in the idea of success, we forget that it's okay to not be on top of everything. It's okay to not have a perfect plan or a flawless morning routine. I used to believe that I needed to be perfect, to feel like I had control over my life. But now I'm starting to see that perfection isn't the goal. Being real with myself, letting go of the constant need to perform, that's where true peace is. So when I wake up at 5, I don't just wake up to get things done. I wake up to give myself a chance, to just be. I don't need to be anyone else. I don't need to have all the answers. I don't need to prove anything. I just need to breathe, to take in the quiet, to be present with myself, and trust that it's okay to not have everything together.
I completely get what you're saying. I think we often forget that we're human, not machines that can keep running without needing a break. There's this idea that we need to keep up with everyone else, that if we're not doing more, we're falling behind. But what if we're missing something important by chasing that constant more? What if the most valuable thing we can do is just slow down? I used to feel like I needed to be productive every second of the day, that if I wasn't doing something worthwhile, then I was wasting time. But when I really started to think about it, I realized that time isn't just for getting things done. Time is for living. It's for feeling, for being present with the people around us, for having moments of quiet reflection. And I think that's where waking up early has changed things for me too. It's not about being super productive. It's about starting my day with intention. It's about giving myself a space to reflect before the world demands anything from me. It's a time when I can just be, without the weight of everything else pressing in, and that's been such a relief. When I wake up early, it's like I get this chance to reset. I can think about what I want my day to look like, but also what I want to feel. I can let go of the idea that I need to be perfect and just be okay with where I am. And honestly, there's a certain kind of strength in that. Not in the doing, but in the being. Not in filling up every moment, but in allowing space for myself to just exist. And in that space, I'm realizing that it's enough. It's enough to wake up, to take things one step at a time, to not have everything figured out, and to just trust that wherever I am, that's exactly where I need to be.
I couldn't agree more. The whole idea of slowing down, of just being present without the constant need to do something, that really hits home. It's easy to forget how valuable it is to just exist, to not feel pressured to always be moving forward, but to take a moment to just be in the moment. So yeah, I guess we've both come to realize something important today. That waking up early, or even just taking time to be still, isn't about perfection or productivity. It's about giving ourselves permission to pause, to reset, and to just breathe. That's something we all need to remember more often. And with that, I think it's a good place to end this conversation for today. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to our thoughts. We'd love to hear what you think. Please feel free to like this video and leave a comment sharing your thoughts or experiences on this topic. We'd love to hear how you handle those quiet, reflective moments and what your mornings are like.